What's up, everybody? This is Bear with a Gun from Sleepless Nights, back with our How to Train Your Turtle. I've been working with this interactive sorter thingy on my off time. I've been trying to I want to eventually use these for creating a database that you can enter items into it and basically save them, and then have like another computer set up, like something like this, but probably with a much bigger screen, to display and essentially give me an account of how many items I actually have and what items I have. I got the idea from watching Good's videos, Good Boulderfist. He did something very similar. I think the biggest difference between what he's doing and what I'm trying to do is he set it up to where the computer, you basically have to have a website in one, at least up through the videos that I've seen. I've only watched like 20 of his FTB videos or something, so he may have changed it, but I don't think so. But he had set up his database to pull from a website, and then essentially as items came in, it would update it based on whatever he had in the database files that he got from the website. And what I'm actually doing, the biggest difference is I'm saving the information to a table, which is another variable type that I haven't included in my tutorial series because I'm still getting the hang of it. It might just be me, but I've had a really rough time getting the hang of them and getting them to work the way I want them to. I think I'm finally kind of getting my finger on it. But time will tell. So when I get this script actually completed to where I want it, and it does what I want without bugs and all that stuff, I will definitely show it to you, and let you see what I'm doing. But essentially, how it's going to work is there will be a one-time process of having to catalog the item once. Because unless you do something like what Good did, where you've done it manually in something like a SQL database or a spreadsheet or something like that, and then you're downloading that to the computer. Unless you're doing something along that lines, I really don't know how you would do it without actually manually entering the item. But essentially what you're going to do is you call the script, it asks you what item you're going to use, you type the name in that you want it. It doesn't have to be the name of the actual item. You can, C for cobblestone or something. I don't recommend doing that. I would recommend writing the actual name so that when you get a display going, it will look correct. But basically, you'd enter like cobble or cobblestone, and then you'd click on the interactive sorter and you'd put it in there, and then it's going to add it to the catalog, and then it would put it in a chest. Now, this isn't a sorter. I'm going to end up writing another script or using a sorting machine system or something. I haven't quite figured out how I want my sorting system, but this is the beginning of the sorting system because I want to catalog the items so that I can get a what Good called a bank going that will display what I have and how many there are. And then I'm going to work on the sorting system. What I'll most likely end up doing is having the interactive sorter when you add something to the catalog, or just the other thing that this script is doing is, and I may change this to be a separate script, because right now it's in the same one. But eventually what I'm going to do is have one for when you throw an item in the sorter, it will basically go by the ID number and update the amount, which will update your bank. When that happens, it'll probably go into a chest, and then I'll probably have one of the Red Power interactive sorters pull from the chest and then go to a series of interactive sorters that will basically funnel and branch all the items down, and eventually you get to a point where they're in the storage units. I haven't mapped out how I'm going to actually do this yet, but I think if I do it that way, that you know, you have individual things that basically it'll end up kind of being like, you know, you'll have sections where one sorter takes care of, you know, I don't know, a wood type, and then another sorter goes to your dust types and stuff like that, and so it'll end up going back and forth and branch off and do different things. Again, not really sure how I'm going to end up doing that. That'll just kind of be a as I go kind of thing, but at the moment I'm working on the cataloging script. Yeah, when I get a minute. But the other script that I want to work on, but I wanted to save this for on camera because it's a little bit more simple and it'll be easier to follow for now. I kind of have an idea of how to do it already because I already have this set up. The one exception is being these monitors. The monitors, like I showed you in the last video, they don't all place the same. I think, I have not tested it, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is setting up to where if the turtle sees that it's dropping the monitors, what it's going to end up doing is each turtle is going to sleep for a little longer than the last one, so instead of just pop pop like it's been doing with the walls, it'll basically put this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this, and I'm hoping that that will basically correct the monitors, but I haven't tried that yet. What I'm going to work on today, though, with you guys, I don't know what this is I'm going to work on what I've called the routing command. Which I've already got it kind of started here, but I'm going to do a little bit more detailed as we go. What this script is basically for is I wanted a system to where you could send messages to turtles and that kind of thing, and they would just behave accordingly. They would call whatever. So what I'm working on is setting up a script that essentially checks for a rednet message and then kind of looks and sees what is the rednet message and what should I do accordingly. Now, I've seen people do this kind of stuff, again, with tables, where, you know, you build a table and then you have a specific set of stuff and yada yada yada. And I may, at some point, since working with the interactive sorting stuff, I'm getting better at working with tables. When I get more comfortable with them and have done it a couple of times, I may end up overhauling the script to use tables. Currently, I'm using strings. And essentially, so what I have set up here is it sets up a ID for the main computer. So it's going to be checking to see if it's getting a message from this computer, and if not, don't do anything. And the file command, or the file variable here, is a blank variable at the moment. This ends up being used if the computer is trying to send a file. And this is kind of what I wanted to do, was because my disk drive is here, so unless, like, for example, this computer, or this system where all these turtles are in the background. If I want to edit the scripts, even if I edit outside of Feed the Beast with like Notepad++ or something, I still end up having to duplicate that file in all of these different computers that are separate computers, all the turtles. And you have to know all their ID numbers and stuff so that you can go in and actually copy the files into them. If you do it in-game, good grief, you have to basically click on each turtle and do all of the modifications. So what I wanted was basically a script where I could write it once, save it to the disk, and then send it to, you know, however many turtles I wanted. And at the moment, you know, you could do a broadcast and just send it all over, or you could write another script to loop through and, you know, go through the different various IDs and send them that way. But I wanted something to where all I had to do was write it once, give it a send command or a send script, and then all of these turtles are going to pick it up, is what I wanted. So that's what got me started on this, and I thought, you know, now that we've covered some rednet stuff, this is a little bit more advanced, but it doesn't use too much rednet and stuff to be confusing, and the most complicated part is the script, the string, I forget what they call it. I think it's delimitation or something, or delineation, I don't remember. I call it string cutting, because you're basically chopping it up into different files, or variables. So the file local variable here ends up getting filled with an actual file, if that's what its command. So the first thing is you open the modem, obviously, and then, like we talked about before, you make a local ID with data. Again, this is a variable, so it doesn't have to be message. Message is kind of the typical one, but in this case I didn't want to use that. And then it waits for a message. When it gets a message, the first thing it does is it basically, what you're doing here is you're declaring two variables, a local command and local prog, or program. And then data is a string. So this is a string class function here, and you do colon and match. And what this is going to do is essentially it takes this character, because you see this is within, oops, actually, let's see here. Let's do, what's this do? Drive food tells you the disk drive of the subsidiary. Oops. Okay. Oh, I did make a copy of it on here. Sweet. Okay, so monitor, write, edit, route. Okay. So this will be easier to read, I think. Okay, so essentially what's happening here is you have the two commands, or the two variables, command and program, and data is a string, so this is kind of like saying string, but this is the one I want to use. But it's a string class function. So what you're going to do is match, and then there's open and close parentheses, but you'll notice there's open and close quotes. So all of this is in a string. The way that match works is, from my understanding, I'm not entirely sure what this particular part does. I read it on a tutorial online and I know it works, but I believe what it's doing is you have a parentheses, period, minus, close parentheses, and then whatever you want to divide the two this string into those two variables. So you're basically cutting it in half at this point. So it's like the negative goes into command, and whatever's after in the positive goes into the program, and then this particular value in the string is it's still in data. You're not actually cutting up or damaging data, but you're separating it into two different things, or making two different copies. So you're copying the first part of the data string into command, and then this part's copying the second part into prog, and you're skipping this space. So it basically looks for the space and then cuts it. So now what this is going to do is, like, if I type into here, if the message that rednet sends from the computer is something like well, for example, get file and then the name of the file, but there's a space in between, then command is now going to equal get file and program is going to equal the name of the program. And then, so that's actually what I test for here, is if command is equal to get file, that means that's the command. Now, I did change this script on that computer, I believe, which is, it's a little more streamlined. This one works, but let me show you what I did over here that is a little bit better. Obviously, the modem side changed. But here, what I ended up doing is I took that, where is it? That if command equals get file part, because it's outside of checking to see if the message was from the main computer. And if you'll notice, I do the same if command down here again. So what I ended up doing on this computer is I waited, and then I did the message thing, and then I checked to see if it was the main computer, and then I did all this other stuff. So this is actually a better way to do it. And I may actually change that. So, first of all, here's a good example. We'll show you what this actually does. We'll terminate, monitor, write, clear. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to run route. Oop, no modem on route. Oh, yeah. Should have been kind of obvious. Left, and then left. Save, exit. Okay, route. So, modem's on. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to change the name of this. So you do move route to, let's just do R for now. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to go into Lua and do a rednet send. I'm going to send it to computer 5, and now my string is going to say get file space R. I'm pretty sure. Oh, and then I'm going to have to concatenate and do toString, or no. Because, okay, see, the way, at least ComputerCraft, I don't think this is Lua specific, but in ComputerCraft, when you make these scripts and you tell it edit whatever, it saves them as basically a string. I found this out before. That's why you don't have to do like toString or something like that. The only reason you're including R here is essentially you're telling this computer what to name the file it's getting. Because if you don't have that, then you'd have to specify the name manually over there, which kind of defeats the purpose of having it automated. But by not having it as a string and you're just telling it R, you're actually going to send the whole file, which is what it needs. And we... Oops. Hold on. I had a script set up also that I think it was test. Yeah. Send fs and send file equals fs open. Oh. Okay. So you can't just do the default thingy. Alright. Well, Okay, what is this? So, send. Oh, okay, I see what I did. Okay. Sorry, I haven't worked with this script in a few. Okay. 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 So I can't actually do it in just a rednet send command. I've got to actually do a script for this. So this is good though. First thing, I don't think we've used this before. This is kind of a table, but not really a table. It is, but it doesn't really work exactly the same as you typically do if you're creating your own table in the file. What this is going to do is it basically will build arguments. So like when you type in monitor and write and then a command and then whatever, they all go into like a targs table, which is table arguments, and allows you to kind of use user input in your programs. For example, did I keep this up? I did. So like command equals toString targs1. So what that's going to do is it's going to store a string command or a string in here, and so you can see if command equals send, then you do stuff. Now, I don't really need to do all this though, since I know what I'm going to send. So we'll just do command set to send, and then do let's see. We'll do string is what we're going to send. Equals. Actually, we'll leave that blank for now. Let's declare a file. Okay. I think that's all we'll need. So, file equals fs.open. Now, this is something that we haven't really worked with before, or I haven't shown, at least. And what this basically is kind of like I mentioned before about the get file, is this is a... Now, file itself is blank at the moment. You could put a string in there or whatever, but when you declare this fs.open, what this basically is doing... just so I can keep them straight, I'm going to do that. This is the same thing. The single quote or double quote, it's still string. What this is going to do is it's set up to create a file inside this script, because it's a local. And it allows you to use the... I don't really know what I think it's file system is what this stands for. And so it allows you to work with a actual file inside a script, kind of like the difference between when you're outside a script you can just run a command, but when you're inside you have to do shell.run and do all that stuff. It's kind of the same thing. When you're outside you can just edit and open a file. When you're inside these, you've got to set up a variable to hold the data. And so this is going to open the R file, which, as you know, I just moved the route script to the R script, and then this argument is either, it can be a few different things, but the most common are R or W, and R is standing for read, to where I can't actually edit the R file. If I put it as W, then I could actually write to this file. So what I'm going to also do then is file, I forget if it's dot or equal. I think it's dot. Yeah, it's dot. And the read all command is basically going to take everything in that file that you opened and read it into the into file. It's going to store it. So, actually, though, you don't put it in the file. I forgot. You and I'm going to use H for handle, like a file handler. So file is now equivalent, it's basically set up a link to that file with a read-only setup. So now handle is a blank variable, so we're going to assign it all of the data inside that file. So now file is the link to the file, and then H is going to contain all the file text, essentially. And now we're going to close it. And you have to close your files, or else things get really screwy. You don't have to close them until you're done, but like for right now, it's set up for read only. Actually, I don't think I did close that file. Oop, that's my bad. Bad programming practice. I did not set that to close. Let's do that now. Bad sparrow. Bad sparrow. So yeah, you can kind of see the same thing. Data is get file, and data is a string, and then at the end I read in the file. And you can actually, we'll do that. We'll do that too. That's a better way to do it. I'll keep that there, but we'll do. We'll leave it as H. Nobody cares. So we'll do. Let's see. Get file. Actually, we don't even need this command thing since I know what I'm doing here instead of doing a bunch of variables. You need a lot of variables when you're doing things dynamically, like you're not going to manually be inputting things. We'll leave a space there. And then R space. Okay. And now we're going to then left. Oops. Set to 5. And we'll send this string. Oh, and then I think I also have it set to keep looking unless it gets the close connection message. Oops. I'm just going to send this to everybody. Close left. Alright. So that should work, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and see, I actually made more work for myself here because I had get file and then I concatenated a space, and all I had to do was just space that. Then we can get rid of this. And now this one I did have to space because this is just going to print the string, so I did need to space that. But I've been doing a lot of this stuff like either early in the morning or late at night, so a lot of things that are my personal stuff that I'm not like watching or talking about while I'm doing them. I'm making like this. I'm making some dumb stuff in my typical programming stuff. Yeah, see if message equals close connection, then print and close the router and end the loop. So I don't know if I have that set up in here or not. I don't think, no, I don't have that set up. Okay, it doesn't matter. So we're going to try this. In theory, I don't have that. See, the copy I made here is for the turtles and stuff. It was a backup copy. But it doesn't have the returning commands to be looking like the other code does. But it has the receive that I'm looking for, so let's run this and see if it works. Okay, no errors, that's good. And looks like route completed. Router's still on. Okay, now I don't see it. Crap. No such program. Weird. Oh wait, I didn't run this one. Okay, so in theory, let's change the main ID to, my security program's working at least. 56. So we're going to change this to 56 for the moment. And run this again. See, now it closed, so that means, I think... See, now we have a program called R. And R is the better routing code. So you can see how this is useful because once I have something connected to the disk drive, I can send it to other computers. And I don't have to actually either manually retype the whole thing, and I don't have to go outside of the game and actually do the programming side. So let's run... Oh, yeah, that's right. Edit R. So this is a better way of doing it than the other one. So we still got the rednet receive. The difference is right after it receives it, it checks to see if it's the right ID or not. And if it is, then it separates. I did change it to message here, so you can see that's how it's used. But then it separates these two strings, and then it checks for if the command. So we've separated command from the first part, which you saw how I did that, where you do get file space, name of the file space, and then the actual file. So it says if it's equal to get file, then it actually does a second match function, which is going to split it again. So now the difference is basically what's going to happen here is it only does this once. So you have the command now equals get file, but program still has the name of the file, a space, and then the actual data. So what you're doing here is we're using program instead of message in this split, and we're going to split it again to where now this is going to end up being the name of the program, it's going to hit the space, and then the rest of it is going to be that read all, which is the actual data file, and then we're going to put that in file, because we declared that up there. And then this is something I actually added, which is a string test to see if you're sending directly from the disk, because I didn't want to have to move everything to the computer and then send it, and because I'm lazy, and I can. So I wanted to just be able to type, you know, send disk / blah blah blah. So what I did was I did another string, but I did it inside the if. So I'm pretty sure that the way local works is where whatever block of code it's declared in, if you exit that block. So I believe once you exit this if line, this if then, whenever it ends, I don't know where it ends, but I believe once you go past this and come back out to this if section and further down, I don't think you can use string test anymore because it was declared inside the if. I think that's how the local variable works. Don't quote me on that though. Anyways, this is a different function. It's a substring, and it basically asks for the string that you want to check, the starting index, and then the ending index, or how many spaces. I believe, I forget which one this is. I think it's the end index, I think. So basically going from 0 to 4, I said I want 4 numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it checks the first 4 digits within the program string. And remember that we've now sectioned this off to where program is the name of the file and file is the content. So all this is the name of the file. So then what I did is if the string test is equal to disk, which would be the first 4 letters in program, if you're sending it from a disk. If not, then this isn't going to return true and nothing will happen. So if it is, then I do a third cut on the program string and cut everything out before the slash, and then program is again equal to anything past the slash. So essentially what I'm doing here is if you're sending a file from the disk, or from the disk drive and not the hard drive of the computer, it's going to store disk in the string test and then store the rest of the file name in program. And essentially you don't do anything else with string test, so it's kind of like throwing it away. It kind of cuts it off, puts it in there, and keeps it off in the trash can kind of thing, where string test becomes just a trash bin to things I don't want. So then program is just equal to the code. So if I typed in disk slash I don't want to mess with it. Disk slash anything. Now string test will equal disk and program will equal anything, and the slash will just be ghost space, whatever. So then I have, let's move this a little bit. I kind of like this because I can see it, but I kind of don't because I have to use this as controls and then I can't see it. So what happens here then is if it gets to this point, it sends a confirmation message to the computer telling it that it got the message and it's transferring the file. From this point, I declared a handle, and then you've seen this before. We did fs open, and then the name or the because this is a string, so it's going to look for the name of the file, or actually it just opens a file with this name. So this is basically whatever computer you're on, in this case a turtle, it's going to create a file with that name and declare it in write mode. And now this is different from the read all. You're going to tell it to write and then it looks for a string. Now again, the file, since this line up here contains all of the actual program data. Prog is just the name. File is all the data. So h.write basically writes all of that data inside file to this file that we just opened with the name that we sent. So it basically keeps it recreates the file on the receiving computer and then adds all the details of the file that you wrote. And then it closes it, so now you will have a file on your computer with the same name and with all the data. I will probably at some point go in and check to make sure that the file is not there already. Like after this line where it cuts the disk part off, I'll probably add a line here that kind of says like, yeah, there's a thing for it, like if fs.exists or something. I forget the name, but there's some function that checks to see if it already exists and then enter the program name, and if it is, then return a different rednet message that'll basically say that it couldn't transfer because the file already exists or something. I'll probably add that in. I don't have enough time in this episode to add it in. I'll probably do it next episode, but I wanted to real quick show you the rest of this script, and then once it closes, if it gets here, then it also sends a message that says complete. Okay. Now this is the run section, which basically says else if command is not equal to get file, but it's equal to run, then rednet send to the main computer that it's running now, and then it does a shell run, and then it toStrings the program. Because program is actually cut. I don't know if that messed you guys up at all. It minimized Feed the Beast. I had a pop-up. But up here, here's the if command equals, but right after it finds out that it's the right computer that's sending the message, it cuts command and program together. Now, again, this is set up to where if it's get file, it does a third cut and cuts the file up. If it's not equal to get file, then you're not sending this data because you wouldn't need it. You're expecting the computer already to have the program. So at this point, you'd only need these two, which command's going to equal the command, or run in this case, and program is just going to equal the name of the program, but you don't need to send the third set of the data, so it doesn't look for it, and you don't need to do the third cuts and all that. So essentially then it toStrings the program, so then this is going to turn into the program name, and since you're doing shell run, it's going to run that program. And then I have a final clause set up that's not commented actually, that sends basically, if you keep adding else ifs, like eventually I'll add something. I'll probably end up adding other features to this script. But else will always be the end, basically saying that if it's none of these that you've declared, get file, run, whatever else you add to this, then basically it's an unknown command, so it'll send unknown command back. And then once it closes this main if string, it'll close the modem, so it sends a final message saying closing connection, and then the rednet is closed and the file ends. Oh, no, I didn't want to. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, exit. Now, my current testing script, as you've seen, is set up to send, and it's set. Now, I type in send, and then the name of the file, and then that's it, and then it uses these files to open the file into the handle, and then the file reads into the string like you've seen here, and it uses the name here as well. But what I have it set up so I don't have to type as much is if I type send, then it sets the string to get file, so it just shortens it a little bit. You don't have to type as much, and again, you know, run. For some reason that didn't save. So, you know, it sends the run, and then it sends the name of the program you want to run. So this is what I was talking about, where you notice it doesn't have the file.read all, so it's not sending the third part, so you don't need all those other cuts. Now, what I did do is, temporarily, I was just sending to Shredder here, so I have it set up to see if the ID is the right computer or not. I'll probably change this, because this is the base computer. But while true, so then infinite loop, it prints the string, it prints the message that it received, and then it waits for another message. And it does so, and then basically, if the message is equals to closing connection, it prints that message, and then it closes the router and it breaks the loop. So pretty much this is set up to where it keeps looping rednet receive, so it'll keep looking for more messages, so it'll still print out all of those different messages that you have, and then when it finally gets the closing connection one, it knows that, okay, the computer I've been talking to is done, so now I need to be done, and then it closes and exits. So yeah, that's basically what I want to do, and eventually I'd just like to keep adding or building on it. Although I guess the other thing is more about building up your scripts on your turtles. So for example, I need to write some scripts on here now that I have the routing system set up to where I'll write a few scripts for the turtles, like, you know, move equals move forward or move up or whatever, you know, write some different scripts and then send it to them and add it so that then I can tell it to run and it'll just do stuff. Yeah, so I think that's going to be it for this episode. Kind of a lot of... I know this is a little bit long and it's dragging on, but I wanted to cover that whole script and not have to do another part. The next episode, it'll probably be editing that script a bit more. I wanted to show you what progress I had made on it. I'm kind of writing this script in order to basically change all of these guys back here. Without having to do them all manually, so that once I get this script really nailed down and it's really how I want it and it's not, there's no quirks in it that I can see, then I'll do a one-time out of Feed the Beast, I'll do a one-time file transfer, you know, in Windows Explorer or whatever, and move this file over to all these different computers, but then from that point on I won't have to do that anymore. I can just broadcast a file and send it to all those different things, because essentially what I'm going to end up doing is something like edit the startup scripts for the turtles to where they just run that routing command every time they reboot, so then you could just send the commands to everybody. So anyways, that'll be it for this episode. Like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know if you like these, if they're helpful, any particulars that you'd like to see me cover, or anything like that. If there is something that's confusing you, or you'd like to learn about Lua or computer craft and you don't know, feel free to let me know, and I'll either include it in my episode if I already know about it, or I'll look into it and then include it. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace!